Morning y'all. Right, in today's daily vlog we're going to talk about setting wrists on the backswing. Wrist hinge. It's a common question I've got all through my coaching career and one that I see people get a little bit kerfuddled on. Kerfuddled is a word. So let's see if we can help you understand wrist hinge a little bit better, which might give you a little bit more club face control. So let's start with some terms that are going to be used in this video to kick us off. So when we talk about setting the wrist in the backswing, the common feeling is moving the wrist this way. So if we look at lead wrist, left wrist, you've got ulnar, which is bending it down to the ground, which is where you'll start your swing generally. And then you've got radial deviation. So that's moving it past the natural hang position of 0. So if my hand and arm sit this way, as soon as I start trying to hinge up, that's radial. Hinging down, that's ulnar. You'll see why I'm doing this later. Then with the lead wrist, again, you have extension, which you would know as cupping. And then you've got flexion, or bowing. Now, I'm quite keen for you to try and use and understand these terms more, because I think the more we use the same terminology, I think the less confusing it gets for everyone. But I agree it is a little bit confusing at the start. So I'll kind of use both as we go on, but we want to push towards those kind of truer terms if we can. Now we've got Coach Lockey waiting at Torquay Golf Club. Let's go and see what he's got to say about it. Alright, Coach?
Hello. How are we?
Tiger hater.
I'm not, I'm a tiger lover. It's such a good shot.
Wrist hinge, setting wrists on the backswing, a very popular search term.
Yeah.
Something lots of people will have questions about, and one that I've seen kind of misled a little bit for quite a long time, I think. So we're going to try and dig deeper today. In your relatively long career as a coach now, you're getting there, aren't you?
Well.
What are you, 6 to 10 years must be now coaching?
Yeah. What was I, 21 when I turned pro?
Nearly 10 years.
Yeah.
Wrist set on the backswing. Would you teach it? How would you teach it? What's your take on it?
Well, personally, I've never thought about it myself.
For your swing?
In my swing, yeah. I wouldn't teach. I would go the other way in teaching, if anything, like trying not to put wrist angles in.
So you'd find you're taking out more? Or?
Yeah, I would be taking out more, definitely more than putting in as such.
So why do you think people then are asking how to set their wrists so often? Why is it such a common question? I've had it through lessons for years and online.
Through 2D cameras, maybe?
Yeah, 100%. Totally
on TV, them drawing the lines on it and stuff like that, and not realising that it's a 3D world, possibly.
So here's an interesting one then, okay. Radial and ulnar we went through this morning a little bit. So let's use those terms, because the more we use those terms and get used to them. I used to hate these terms, but I agree with people like Joe Mayer, who unfortunately isn't on social anymore because he got so bored of trying to out people and then just throwing it in his face. He just thought, I had enough money from coaching, you all go and rot on social media. Bye. I won't help you, I'll help the people who want help. And he was always a big advocate, and I agree, for trying to use correct terms, because obviously terminology gets... So I'm going to use both still, but we're going to go... I start in ulnar.
Yep.
So if I hinge my wrist down into ulnar, then what I'm going to do, so that's here, where I would be starting. You're never going to have radial the other way, so hinged up to start, because the club would never get on the ground.
Yeah.
And then if I just stand up straight, and then I'm going to just rotate my arms. So rotate my arms, if you like, this way.
Pronate, supinate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Supinate and pronate, that one. So I'm going to rotate my arms, which would be really a backswing broken down.
Yeah.
I'm now just going to flatten my left wrist with my lead arm a little bit. So go into a bit more flexion with that wrist. I'm going to take my posture again, and I'm going to rotate.
Oh, you're looking like a normal backswing there.
But if you come round the front, yeah, you're seeing near right angles here, which is those 2D lines.
Yeah.
But I'm probably 0 with my wrist still in ulnar.
Yes.
So if I started, for argument's sake, in 20-degree ulnar, I've hinged my wrist up, but remaining in ulnar, not going into radial, which is what most people think they need to do. you know, like 12 degrees, a tiny, tiny amount.
Yeah.
It's actually the rotation of my arms, the movement in my wrist, and my body angles that put that 2D image that you talk about in there.
Yeah.
I see a bigger problem with people trying to actually set their wrists.
Yeah.
Because what I start to see when people try to actually physically set, so radial with the lead arm in their wrist, is they put loads of extension, cupping as you know it, in that lead wrist, which is where you start seeing the massive slices. People really struggling with angle of attacks, certainly in longer clubs. Best example of this is DJ. So if you do a DJ backswing for me, and this is going to surprise a few people, but it's a great point.
Yeah, I even have to think a little bit to do it.
So just go up to the top and put your wrist in as much bending back as you can. So you are going into hyperflexion, if that is the right term there. But your lead wrist
is still
actually still, if you stay there, it's still...
It's there.
It's 0 to still in ulnar, depending on your natural hanging position. So DJ is a great example of someone who actually will get close if probably doesn't go into radial on his backswing
and then
at all. So doesn't set at all. He actually uses a different axis of rotation.
And then he goes this way, doesn't he?
Yeah, and a massive rotation in his body.
Yeah.
So I actually see setting of wrists as a little bit of a, like an issue, but one that I could teach what people want to hear, and they'll lap it up. They're like, oh yeah, I'll set my wrist 90 degrees, all that, but you won't get any better. Look, let's do a couple of shots.
I also think,
I like it when you say you think.
The lag as well is a big thing, isn't it? Like, on the way down as well, isn't it? Like they're trying to do this.
Yeah, which is putting loads of extension.
Yeah, both again.
Which is, again...
So it's not just backswing that I think people are trying to do it. I think it's downswing too that is also having a big
100%. We'll do a video on that. I've done plenty of that work, but I totally agree with that point. They get mixed up together, basically.
When it's just this.
Correct, correct, yeah. So look, I want you to hit a shot for me.
Okay.
We can see your last shot on the screen here. It's a little draw onto target, believe it or not, with whatever iron you're hitting here. I want you now to do one. I don't know how good you are at this. Can you do one where you put loads of wrist set in? So actually try and put radial in your backswing and downswing and hit it with speed. Are you dotted?
Yeah.
Good shot. So you've now got a little bit of fade. And what I want you to do is show me the numbers of those last two shots.
Alrighty.
This is a test on you as much as it is on ideas. So we saw a bit of a difference in lie angle.
Tiny bit, yeah. Loft higher.
Why do we see a massive difference in loft? 4 degrees higher. Path didn't really move much at all, 1 degrees. Face control very different.
3 degrees different.
So you added loft and you had the face open to the path.
Yeah. So I'm basically twisting the club around this axis,
which adds loft and makes it point right at the path a little bit.
Correct. And so adding those in, I'm not able to get them out quick enough to repeat what I've done on my first shot. And I see that on so many lessons.
Well, I remember when you first started working with me, we went and did lessons like at the London Golf Show.
Yeah.
And I could kind of almost feel you giggling at how much I just repeated.
Yeah.
We were seeing like hundreds of people coming through.
Yeah.
And you would see you'd see these people have instant results, and I could almost feel you in the background going, God, this ain't complicated, is it?
Yeah.
Like, why have I not been doing this for years? I've been telling people to keep their right knee still, kind of stuff. That's what people in the DJ have been talking about.
But like, you look at some people's content as well now, the real sort of thinker pros, and they're just repeating the same thing because it's the same thing, and it's great, and it's like quite refreshing. But yeah, wrist angles, club face and wrist relationships, and how your hand path is related to that club head, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then you're good at golf.
So would you see the idea of setting wrist as a generalised idea as a good thing to think about, or a bit of a destructive thing for people?
More destructive, especially for your amateur golfers, I would say.
Yeah, when mass content delivery, I would see it only as so destructive, and have done over so many years.
I agree.
Just see if this will register. I'm not sure if these dots are on properly, but I'm going to just hit my standard shot, which I would call kind of standard wrist set ideas. Slight draw but relatively straight. Let's see if we got face there. What are we on here, won't it?
Yeah, you should have.
Yeah, club path, angle of attack all there. So I'm now going to do another one where I do a very deliberate set. The other thing I see with deliberate sets, which used to really frustrate me as a coach to see, I used to just think, oh, how have you got there? Because it was over-coaching ideas. So I used to think if you hadn't read that article, watched that video, you would never have done that and you'd have been more natural.
Yeah.
So what I mean by that is it becomes so disjointed when people try to set their wrist.
Yeah.
Because it's so intricate, this ulnar, rotation, little bit of flattening and a turn. It happens all so like spreading butter. It's just so seamless.
Yes.
Or we want it to be, and often is for people, because you get them to throw a ball, they don't go, they just kind of flow.
Yeah.
And you think, let's have that flow, because that's you. So it gets it so disjointed when you've seen the lessons, don't you, when they come in.
Yeah.
You know, like you see it on the practice area. It's like, oh man, you've rolled bulge on it. So I'm going to do one now where I really try and set my wrist.
Sounded different.
Just whack the ground.
Yeah.
I can't recover. It's like a crash.
Yeah.
Might not get a reading, that strike was so bad.
So heavy. I don't think it has actually. I think it did.
Launch angle, yeah, no clubs. Let's hit another one, because that was such a bad strike. The club was not measured. So again, same thing, just really going to set my wrist. That's why people are watching this video, hopefully, because they've searched set the wrist, hinge the wrist in the backswing. Look at these numbers, it'd be interesting. I mean, look where the ball's going. I just feel like I'm going to hit massive push cuts with that, because I cannot get the club face back out in front of me. That's getting stuck more than the idiots on Sky. I don't see many people get stuck here. No. Just rotate it. You're telling me a world-class player can't rotate? That's getting stuck. I can't get out.
Yeah. You see so many other faults coming through that as well, don't you? Like your early extending and all those other search terms. Yeah.
So I'm 0 into out, my original shot, 0 face. That's my standard iron shots, relatively straight. 30 degrees aloft, 4 down. I then went nearly 8 down, 4 out to in, face 8 open. Just can't recover it, and added 2 degrees aloft. So I'm literally putting so much in, then trying to get so much out, I'm actually adding loft.
Yeah.
Well, and think about that one. I love those ones. This one blows people's heads off. I'm adding loft while hitting down, so I'm actually hitting as an exaggerate. I'm hitting that way. Who hits that way? People who try to hinge their wrists. I'm like, adding loft, hitting down. It's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy.
Yeah.
I see it very much as a real hindrance. So there is a certain amount of movement we need to do. The one I would like you all to try and think about is letting your arms really rotate with your body, which I'll do a couple of drills on it at home to finish this video off, and trying to flatten this wrist with lead arm. Forget trying to radial in it. And if you can stay in ulnar, for most of you, to be honest with you, you might lose a little bit of leverage and get a little bit pat-patty, but your face control will be pretty damn good. Should we do a couple of drills? 2 clubs, I like this drill, bit of weight, really puts into perspective how your wrists get strained or don't, so the kind of more efficient way of using them. Obviously 2 clubs together, much heavier than 1. If I was to make backswings where I put loads of wrist hinge here, I feel it in my arms, I feel it in my wrist. It feels very out of control of the weight of these 2 heads. It feels like they can literally go anywhere. Opposed to that, if I make this move, where I feel my arms are rotating with my body, I just try and flatten my left wrist, my lead wrist. So just go into a bit of flexion with that lead wrist. And that club, you can see it sitting back as I let the right arm fold. It's much more of a seamless move when you put that weight in, and it makes more sense to get your body and your arms all working together because it doesn't start pulling on one of them. Use all of you to control that added weight. That's a really good one. Next one. Grab something long. I'm going to use this brush. I'm going to hold it right down at the brush end so I've got all the handle out the other end here. Again, if I make backswings where I put lots of wrist hinge in, you'll see how violently and quickly that brush head comes down to the ground before I've even really made backswing. Or if I do it a little bit more seamlessly, let my body turn, even keeping the side of the brush on my left pocket for a little longer as my body turn. Again, not feeling any real wrist hinge. I'm not going to go into radial deviation with that lead wrist. I'm going to try and flatten it only with my lead arm, and I can see as I do that I turn the head of the brush a little bit away from me. So just manipulating again that club face. This is me rotating my body, rotating my arms, and not really activating my wrist, giving myself a lot of brush head control, which in turn really is club face control, isn't it? Club face control is key. Wrist angles, wrist set, severely manipulates your club face control. Got to keep brushing it, which severely affects your delivery, your ability to control delivery, your ability to crash or not, your ability to thrust your bodies into positions as you try and rescue these wrist angles. You'll be amazed how many students I actually end up doing this with, and it just transforms the way they strike the ball. There we go, thanks for watching. I like that one today because I think it's a subject that's so, well, it's been taught for so long in such a basic manner. And I know lots of people want it as simple as possible, and I get that, but sometimes things just need to be, if you want to improve them, you've got to think about them a little bit more. And the simplicity of that idea of hinging your wrist, that kind of thing on the backswing, I think actually holds people back. Post comments down below, let me know if any of this made sense or not, if you're going to practice it. We definitely see big results in taking the ideas of wrist hinge out of people's swings. See you all on Thursday, not tomorrow, Wednesday. I'm not here tomorrow, I've got meetings, so I can't film tomorrow basically. So I'll see you all on Thursday. Got a fun ask down for you tomorrow though, about T height.